It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley are here with shocking news. Shocking, stunning news. You won't believe your ears. And, of course, the usual stuff that you'll totally believe. Windows Weekly is next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Windows Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com. Hi, everybody. It's time for our annual audience survey. We'd really like to hear from you. It helps us understand our audience better, know what you like and don't like, how you listen to the show. It also helps us tell advertisers what kind of people listen. But I promise you, your feedback is always kept personally anonymous. All you have to do is visit twit.tv/survey and let us know what you think. It'll just take a few minutes, and it'll help us make Twit even better. We really appreciate your support and any help you can give us. twit.tv/survey. This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley, episode 456, recorded Wednesday, March 9th, 2016. Windows 10, do it. Windows Weekly is brought to you by FreshBooks, the super simple cloud accounting software that's giving thousands of freelancers and small businesses the tools to save time billing and get paid faster. Try it free at freshbooks.com/windows. And by Audible.com. To download a free audiobook of your choice, go to audible.com/windows. And by Wealthfront. Wealthfront is a low-cost automated investment service and the most sophisticated way to invest your money. Whether you've got millions or you're just starting out, visit wealthfront.com/windows and sign up to get your free personalized investment portfolio. That's wealthfront.com/windows. It's time for Windows Weekly.
Bastard.
We were just playing a little theremin in. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. Paul Thurrott of Thurrott.com. Hello, Paulie.
Hello, Leo.
Good to see you, my friend, from allaboutmicrosoft.com.
Nope.
It's Mary. No, I'm just
sorry.
not you.
Sorry.
Joe Foley. I know it's all about you, Paul. Ultimately,
We're interchangeable most times.
at this
really.
point, I feel like you're like ham and cheese. I won't say who
I'm
the
the
ham
cheese.
is. Yeah,
I want to be the cheese.
Nice.
a nice French something a little
A weirdly buttered bread sandwich with ham and cheese on it.
Yum. Yum. What do they call that? There's a name for that. A bacon sandwich or bacon bun or something. Anyway, you butter and isn't that a British thing? They have a breakfast bun and it's butter and ham on or back bacon on a bun. That's not.
Or the New York egg and cheese
Egg
on a
and
roll.
cheese on a roll.
This thing doesn't have enough fat on it. How else could we? Oh, I know. We'll put some butter on it.
Train me now, because I want to be able to do this. You go to the coffee cart, you say egg and cheese on a roll and coffee white, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Something like that.
Pretty much.
I want to sound like one
New
of
Yorker?
them. Yeah. New Yorker.
Right.
A New Yorker. So, hello. Welcome back. You were in Redmond. Everything went well on your on departure from Seattle area?
Yeah.
The beautiful SeaTac airport.
It rained more on that trip than it has ever rained in all of my other Redmond trips combined. And I know for a fact that when people think of Seattle, they think it's like that all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, that's a lie.
No, plus
was
it
like
was
that this week.
torrential. It wasn't
That's what I mean.
regular
It was
Seattle
like real
rain.
rain.
Yeah. And now
Usually it's cloudy there all the time. And it will mist and kind of lightly rain a lot.
Yeah.
I've seen plenty of sun there, though. In fact, I see more sun than anything else there. But this trip, it just rained and rained and rained. It was crazy.
and you're back in time for summertime in New York City.
I know.
Man.
Oh, jeez.
Yep. 75 in New York today.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
What?
Yes. Not kidding.
That's amazing.
I know.
It's hot.
Yeah, Mary Jo Foley's got a fan on.
I do.
Paul's, I don't know what Paul's got going. But it's hot. It's hot in Dedham as well.
Yeah, same temperature.
The whole East Coast is just boiling up. Wow. Well, you know what's hot right now? Linux.
That you're
God,
going to
if
do
I
hell
ever-
freezes over.
Seriously,
It's
if you never
over.
told me the way my life was going to go 20 years ago, I never would have believed that
That's
this
what
was
it is.
possible.
It's hell freezing over, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm thinking that since it's a SQL Server story, we're going to let Mary Jo Foley handle this one. Right? She's the queen of SQL Server.
Okay, sure.
Well, whoever.
So,
I see Paul's name there. I don't.
No, let's do it.
All right.
Monday, out of the blue, Microsoft announces, hey, guess what? We're porting SQL Server to Linux. Boom.
You got to imagine the giant spit take I did all over Twitter.
Why is that a big deal? Tell me why.
Well, the sudden and
Because it's
unexpected nature of it
Linux.
is, yeah.
So, just, in the past, under Steve Ballmer, Linux was the enemy.
It was.
Steve was always saying bad things about Linux.
Linux was a cancer, I believe, was
That was
the
the
exact
word.
quote.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it was a free operating system that competed with Windows, and more importantly, competed with Windows and Enterprise as a server.
Right.
Mary Jo, can I throw out a theory and just tell me what you think about this?
Sure.
Because I think with any given decision like this, in other words, we all know under Satya Nadella, they've embraced rival platforms. They've embraced Linux in big ways, Linux on Azure and so forth. But I really feel like there's a calculus that occurs where they say, okay, it's and I hate to say it this way, I apologize, but this was the old name, it was the kind of the knifing the baby strategy, what they used to call it. But the idea was, we have all these Microsoft products over here, and we have these other Microsoft products over here. And which one's more important, And that the way that this kind of decision gets made is the products that were important in the past that would have prevented this from happening aren't as important anymore. And that SQL Server is more important to Microsoft's future
Than Windows?
and to their strategy than, well, yeah.
Bite your tongue,
Yes.
Paul Thurrott.
Nope,
Well,
I
that's
agree.
my theory.
I agree with what you're saying. In fact, if you look at the New York Times, who actually got to talk to Satya Nadella about this, his exact quote was, data is the core asset now. Not
Wow.
Windows, data. Right.
SQL Server is a database program, a very widely used database program.
Yes. Definitely one of Microsoft's big cash cows. A couple of
jewel.
years ago, it was bringing in $2 billion a year by itself.
Wow.
Yep.
But that was
maybe
selling
about that.
server software, right?
And
it
But you had to
promoted-
run it on Windows Server.
Right. And so some of the money came from Windows Server, I would think.
No, that $2 billion was SQL Server.
Just SQL on top. Okay. But they
Windows
made even
Server was
more money
another
on
That's correct.
Windows Server.
That's correct. That
Right.
is correct. And I think
Windows
the theory
Server, like
now,
$1 billion, $2 billion.
Well, yeah. Another actually, what Leo just said kind of factors into what I was saying earlier.
Yeah.
You would, of course, you needed Windows Server to run SQL Server in the past, and so that was part of that calculus. Every
Right.
SQL Server sale is a Windows Server sale, right? It's
Exactly.
wonderful. These days, what they're looking at is the future. It's Azure and cloud services.
Yep.
And there's a SQL Azure, which they may have renamed by now, whatever that's called. And then the notion of hosting Linux and Azure and containers. And it's this whole different, I hate this world. It's so weird to me. I just can't. This is going to be a tough one for me.
Right. I think
it's just a
it
weird
was
world.
no. You're totally right. And one of the Microsoft MVPs on SQL Server, Andrew Brust, who you know,
Yep.
I think.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Yep.
He talked about the fact that the cloud isn't about Windows, right? The cloud is the cloud, and so Microsoft's going to put in the cloud what people want. 25% of the VMs in the Azure cloud right now are Linux based. I know for a fact that a lot of
25%, and this
Yeah,
was
that's
something
a
they
lot,
just
right?
rolled out this year, right?
now a couple years ago,
It's
but
been that long.
picking up a lot of steam. Definitely.
I'd love to see the cost savings analysis on this, because the phrase Linux is free doesn't cover it, right? Because you still need
Right.
people. Well, I think you're still paying for something there, regardless of the notion that Linux is free. But you're paying for people to run these things, to manage them, to do whatever. I mean, it's curious to me. I can't just be cost. It can't be that big of a difference. I mean, you're paying for Azure, of
Right.
course,
Right.
in this scenario. I mean, I don't.
People like
well, you know-
Linux and they like open source software. What's wrong with that?
Shut your mouth.
Shut your mouth. Talk about Linux.
I'm going to contribute two pieces of info here. So one is, I know because I live in New York, a lot of banks are big Linux shops, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Which amazes me.
I know. So, Microsoft really is stepping up its enterprise game with Nadella there. And I would say that's one big reason that they're doing this, because I bet a lot of their enterprise customers are saying, you know what, we want to run your database, but we want it on Linux. Secondly, the big competitor who Microsoft's going after with this is Oracle, right? It's not MySQL. It's not the free databases.
Oracle.
They know that the place where people sometimes have to use Oracle, even if they're almost entirely Microsoft shop, is when they have a Linux box, right? So I contend this is an anti-Oracle move and a pro-cloud move.
Kind of sense.
Kind of, but again, I think the thing that's interesting. I agree with. By the way, she's right clearly, but I think the thing that's interesting about this is just that none of us would have come up with this as the obvious thing to do. I don't think. If we could go back in time just a couple of days and say, I don't think any of us would have come up with this. The big banks that Mary Jo is referencing probably are using Oracle databases, actually, in many cases. I'm sure that's part of it. But how long would it take for Microsoft SQL Server to become competitive with Oracle on Linux, if ever?
Right.
I mean, even the version they're talking about now is sort of a subset of what's possible with SQL Server on Windows. And I think it will be for quite some time. I mean, this is a brand new product in many ways.
Right. Right. I asked Microsoft, are you actually going to go so far as to bring all the features that are, say, coming in SQL Server 2016 to Linux? And they said, no, we're just bringing the core database features.
Ah, that's interesting.
But that speaks to the cloud bit of it then, doesn't it? I mean, it's almost like they see it as nodes of storage, essentially. Like this is like a replication type thing.
Possibly,
perhaps. But, in other words, you'll still have a Windows, Azure or Windows kind of main database, if you will, that's doing a lot of other things. But maybe you're spreading the database over multiple machines. And in that case, it is maybe cheaper to use Linux.
The other group they're appealing to by doing this is developers, right? Because more and more development shops are doing things with open source and Linux. And so if you need a database as part of the equation, especially in the cloud, it behooves Microsoft to have SQL Server there, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, I don't think any of us would have predicted this. It didn't leak. Nobody was guessing this was going to happen. It was kind of like, boom, here it is, guys.
Even if you were to say, look at Microsoft's main server products, which of these makes sense to go to Linux first? I still don't know that SQL Server would have been top of mind.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting question to ponder.
It's an impossibility at this point, but it just happened so suddenly and unexpectedly. I think that was just a big part of it. There was no murmuring of this.
No. And now it's already available in preview on Ubuntu. It's coming to preview on Red Hat Enterprise Linux next, and it's also available immediately in preview as a Docker image. So it's obvious they have been preparing for this since they actually released the bits in preview this week.
Right.
The final version's not till mid-2017, but that's not that far away, really, for a big product like this. It means they've been working on it. We just didn't know.
Right.
Sadly.
Secretive losers. Well, that's interesting. We just talked to Jeffrey Snover last week, and I have to wonder if...
Oh, he knew. Oh, he knew.
Yeah, he knew. He definitely knew.
Cagey son
colorful
of a gun.
tie-wearing distinguished engineer.
Well, it was funny because we were teasing him about PowerShell going to Linux.
Right.
Yeah. It seems like a necessity, actually.
It does.
First step.
I would think so.
First step.
Yeah, I think so too.
I mean, you can write SQL in other ways, but it's nice to have PowerShell capability. You can do quick queries and
even just for managing the servers, it would make sense.
Yeah.
In fact, if with this notion of it just being core database capabilities, it seems like managing those servers and his whole Snowflake thing makes plenty of sense for these types of machines, actually.
Yeah. Wow. Yep. Wowie zowie.
Yeah, so we're changing the name of the show to Winlux Weekly.
People keep saying, why did you do a Linux show? And we are, actually, as it turns out. We didn't know.
Yeah. I'm so happy to be part of the inaugural episode.
Of our new Linux program.
Who saw that one coming?
By the way, does it matter what kind of Linux? Did they say? I mean,
Yeah. Well, they said Ubuntu first, Red Hat Enterprise Linux second. They have a bunch of different distributions of Linux that are supported on Azure. So it's interesting those two are first.
So it's others. There are others then. It's not just those two.
Right. There's also Oracle Linux on Azure. They didn't mention that.
yeah, they won't mention that.
Not a big Oracle tie-up with this announcement. That's interesting.
What else is on there? OpenSUSE is on there, CentOS. So there are other distributions they haven't talked about being supported yet.
I mean, that type of thing alone is very difficult, right? I mean,
Is it?
You know,
I mean, once you do
supporting different
Linux,
flavors of Linux. I don't know, because people are going to run benchmarks and things are going to, an update will come out and for some reason it works better over here than it does over here. I mean, this is a real commitment.
Linux users are used to that, by the way. I mean, I don't know. Windows users aren't, but Linux users are used to that.
Leo, we live in a world where somebody buys a keyboard app and the people who have Windows phones are freaking out. I mean, this thing you're describing is a different plane of existence altogether.
Different world.
Yeah.
Now, you said it's just core SQL Server. So is it kind of a second-class citizen, Linux?
Oh, let me answer that one, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Thank you for stating it so clearly.
Well,
Okay.
that's
And what I would say is it wasn't that long ago, and many people would still say it still is the case, that Microsoft SQL Server was not considered a true enterprise mission-critical database,
really?
right? So,
I didn't know that.
right. When they started putting a SQL Server out there, it was seen as a toy for many years.
Well,
and
the first
people were
versions
like,
were, right? I mean,
right.
I
now-
I have to go back quite a ways for my own SQL experience. But remember, before it was SQL 4.2, those versions, you specified a database size and you were done. You could never grow the thing, right? I mean, they made big changes through the 6 and then 7, which I think was basically a ground up or ground down, however you say, the ground up rewrite. And what was our wonderful man who we have now lost, Jim Gray?
Yes, Jim Gray.
Was the database genius behind all that. And the Terra server that they had, back before this was, that's very common, but they used, it was sort of a Google Maps, but back in 1997-ish,
I remember
they,
that.
yeah, it was a
GIS.
room full of refrigerator-sized servers and global data from the Russians and the United States government, so they could cover the whole world. And it was basically, a very simple version, but a way to get a lot of, a terabyte. How do we get a terabyte of data in that world?
What a changed environment we're in, aren't we?
Yeah,
Right.
today would be an MP3 collection, and it would be on a, like a sliver
amazing.
thing that would
It's
fit
such
inside a phone.
Yeah, such a changed environment. Yeah.
Yep.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, but now, if you're comparing what they're talking about doing with SQL Server 2016, they're very different things, right? SQL Server 2016 is pretty much enterprise. I would say it's enterprise class. I mean, they do a lot of things around improvements around transaction and parallel computing and stretched database, all the things we've been talking about since last year when they first started talking publicly. So they're pretty different versions of SQL Server that we're talking about. So yeah.
That's big,
We'll see.
big deal. So I didn't understand how big a deal it was. I knew it was an interesting competitive move. So, I mean, we talk a lot about how Nadella is putting Windows apps on the iPhone first. But this is another way of saying it's not Windows anymore.
Right.
It's wherever our customers want to be. Isn't that what he said?
I think it was, I don't know if it was December or January, I'd written an editorial where it said that, the future of Microsoft is Azure. I mean, when you distill it all down, what we're heading toward, I think, is this future where that is Microsoft, and that the client stuff kind of goes away because it becomes more and more pointless over time.
Do they
I know
give
it's
up
hard
on OSs? I mean, do they say,
No.
Well, no. I mean, but I don't think there's any future in it, frankly, for Microsoft. And it's something that will take some time.
It's funny because it wasn't that they were beat. It wasn't 10 years ago. You might have said, "Well, who beat them? Did Mac suddenly come on strong?" Or no, they're still dominant on desktop. It's just that desktop isn't as important as cloud anymore.
Right.
I mean, you still need something to use with the cloud,
you
device.
do, but it doesn't matter what that is. I mean, increasingly
Independent. Yep.
It really,
any device.
yeah,
they keep saying, right? Any device, any browser. If you want to use Windows, great. great, but
it's an interesting thing that as this world has evolved, if you think about a typical computer that you might pop in a bag and bring on a road, obviously the processing power goes up and all that kind of stuff over time, but storage needs are less and less, hard drives are going up, and now we go down to SSDs, and it really kind of doesn't matter anymore, for this kind of stuff, because a lot of it is really about connectivity and access to your information no matter where it is. You don't have to bring it with you on a file that's on a disk with you. It becomes less and less important, and that's why Azure is so important, especially to Microsoft. This, for all the mobile first, cloud first stuff, and for all the iOS and Android mobile apps, and I think we're going to look back and sort of see those to be baby steps, even though Office and iPad was such a big deal 2 years ago when they announced it. That stuff is nothing compared to this. That was almost like a feint, and this is the real thing. Amazing? I mean, because for Microsoft's future, this is what's important.
Yep.
Not, the little alarm clock app that makes you make a selfie so you can, turn off the alarm or whatever that silliness is.
Right. Yeah. But even, even those apps, if you really look at what's behind them, again, it's the cloud, right? It's all the machine learning stuff. That's why they're doing those apps, right? It's meant to be showcases for what they have in the cloud.
Yeah.
It all points, all roads lead to the cloud. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, if you're interested in database stuff, tomorrow there's a live event that Microsoft's doing on the web, 10 a.m. to noon. It's called Data Driven, and Nadella's speaking, and Scott Guthrie's speaking, and a few of the other big Microsoft Cloud people are speaking. I bet they're going to talk.
Is it a purely virtual event, or are there going to be people in the audience?
It's in New York, but we aren't allowed to go.
Okay.
But it is there are people in the audience, but we aren't allowed.
Journalists.
It's mostly
when you say we, it's of course journalists.
We U.S. press are not allowed. Yeah. So I think it's customers who will be.
Okay, I'm just curious.
I think European press may be in the audience, but we're not allowed.
That makes sense. Okay. Well, we're talking about Linux. Nothing makes sense. What's the difference?
Yeah.
We're going to let
it's going to be Azure. It's going to be SQL. Yeah, there'll be Azure SQL Server, probably machine learning stuff, and maybe they'll talk the SQL Linux stuff. I would think they should at this point.
I would assume there's going to be at least some tidbits of information at this event that will expand our understanding of what they're doing.
Would you run SQL Server on a Linux box, a bare metal Linux box, or is it really designed to be run on a Linux Azure instance? I mean,
I believe it's both, isn't it?
You could just have a Linux box and run SQL Server on it.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're doing an on-premises and a cloud version, both.
I tried to look to see whether there was some indication where there was an on-prem versus cloud divide here, where maybe we could see some hint of strategy, but actually they're approaching it like they do with their own platform, meaning you can do both.
There's no hint of strategy at all, is what you're saying.
No. I mean, well, no. In other words, no. So what I meant was, imagine if it was purely a on-prem product, which actually doesn't make sense in this day and age. That might indicate that Microsoft is kind of giving up on the on-prem stuff because the future is the cloud in Azure.
Right.
But actually, they're approaching it like they do with their own stuff. So there's no real indication there, at least not yet.
Right.
Fascinating, as Spock would say.
Yep.
Fascinating.
And Mary Jo, you have all these words that I hate, like Open Compute Project and Eclipse Foundation, and what?
I love this. We'll get to the Eclipse in just a second. Do you think there'll be other? Do you think there'll be other? Exchange on Linux?
Oh yeah, we should throw this out there because Al Gillen, who's an analyst with IDC, he was quoted saying, "You know what? I wouldn't be surprised to see them bring Exchange and even SharePoint to Linux."
Wow. Actually, that would be a product I'd be interested in.
Would you
Peter
really?
Bright had the most beautiful comment on Twitter about this, which was, Linux users deserve SharePoint.
And Exchange.
I just thought that perfect.
I've been asking people about this myself and saying, do you think they'll go that route? And I'm hearing mostly people don't think they will.
Well, you know why? It would be a death blow, I think, to Windows Server.
I think
that's already happening.
I think
this is more about Office 365, right?
Yes. Yes.
Because the very notion of a standalone Exchange server actually doesn't make sense anymore.
No, you want to do hosted Exchange.
Although people are running them.
No, it's not just.
still.
I mean, what I mean is you don't think of it as Exchange anymore. It's really Office 365.
Oh yeah.
Because when you have all of that stuff, SharePoint, and I almost called it Link, whatever that's called now, Skype for Business, and Exchange, et cetera. When you have all of that, these products can interoperate in ways that are not possible if you only have one of the standalone servers. And so that really is the future of that. It doesn't really make sense, I don't think, to put a standalone business server like that on a Linux box. You'd have to kind of bring the whole Office 365 thing, and that does. They're already hosting that. They don't need to.
Right.
I think the future of that stuff is where it is right now. It's Office 365.
Right. And so they don't want to do anything really to promote on-prem either, right? So they, they'll continue to offer Exchange on-prem and SharePoint on-prem, but they're not going to try to say, hey, let's rev that business up. They want to drive more people again to the cloud, right? So I don't think we're going to see that, actually.
Does Microsoft still have, I mean, they had Xenix. Does they still have their flavor of Linux? Is there Microsoft? No. I wonder why not. I mean, that would be an easy thing to do. That would be...
I actually think it's inevitable that Microsoft makes a Linux distribution that is tuned for the cloud and for Azure in particular.
Yeah.
Like I'm actually kind of surprised that hasn't happened.
There may be legal. I'm wondering if there's like some sort of legal ramifications to them doing their own.
It reminds me of what actually was Exchange Server when the cloud was first was happening and actually the very early days, because it's really about virtual machines. Customers wanted to put Exchange into a virtual machine. Microsoft said, nope, we don't support that. We don't recommend it, yada, yada, yada. And then over time, it was like, well, we don't really support it, but if you were going to do it, here's how we would configure it. And they actually came out with these best practices documents about this is the best way to do that. I mean, again, we don't think you should, but if you're going to. And then it became a full-fledged, this is a fully supported, absolutely, normal way to do things. I think as they evolve this Linux-ness, whatever it is. I don't see how they could avoid this unless the partnerships they have with one or more of these companies bears enough fruit that they can just rely on a partner for that. But I don't know. I've been thinking that for a while. I think it's weird to me there isn't it would be like an Azure Linux kind of thing. You wouldn't put it on on a PC, but
I don't know if you remember this, Paul, but there is this thing called the Azure Cloud Switch that has to do with the Open Compute project, actually. And when Microsoft talked about that a year ago, everyone said there is the Microsoft version of Linux. That's because it's running on Linux, but it's not really what you're talking about here.
We don't know what Linux. We don't know anything about it, or do we know? Or what is that thing?
It's more for like an operating system inside a data center switch. So it's not meant to be like Linux that you run apps on. It's like a custom version of Linux that is inside of a switch, is my understanding of that. Okay. But I don't think that will ever come to market. Microsoft internally use.
But that's an early example of Microsoft Linux.
It is an example.
Essentially.
Yeah. Again, I don't think they'll bring that to market as a version of Linux, like their own flavor of Linux. I don't think so.
I got to go back in time and warn young Paul about this stuff.
Or maybe just kill somebody in his crib.
You're not going to believe this big guy, but 10 years from now, Linux is going to be in phones.
No. But is it the year of the Linux desktop? No. Good news.
No. It might be the year of the Linux cloud.
Well, that's what's interesting. It could just bypass the desktop entirely.
Sir Mars, who's listening, said, sounds like it's time for Windows Mint Edition.
That's what people use mainly if they are Linux. I mean, Windows users and they want to go to Linux. Mint is a very friendly Windows-y way to use Linux.
Yeah. I mean, I still prefer the multi-floppy disk set for Slackware Linux, but I see what you're saying.
It's Slackware. And, you need your own configure, text-based X-window configuration utility is what we need, Wow. I think Microsoft, I think they could do quite well with a Microsoft Linux that looked like Windows.
If only there was an obvious name we could call such a thing.
Lindows, maybe?
Windows.
Lindows.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like the new Microsoft, like we keep calling it, is more about partnering than it is about trying to compete with the distributions.
They don't care. They don't need to be a desktop operating system.
No, but even on server, I think they're like, you know what, we're going to partner with Red Hat and Canonical, and we're good with that. We're not going to try to reinvent Linux.
Unbelievable.
It's like Attila the Hun picked up like social skills and just walked over the border and started shaking hands and stuff, you know? It's just so strange.
Yeah.
I need to wash this out of my mouth.
Yeah.
There's a green liquid I could drink.
Hey, Paul, just think, it gives you more things you could write books about. You like to write books. I'm still not going to help you, but you could write a book about this.
You know, this transition would make for an interesting book.
It would, wouldn't it?
It would. Someone should write that, not me.
Colin Simon, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, has referenced for us on Twitter a Register article that talks about the custom Debian Linux for networking.
That's the one.
Which is the thing you were talking about.
Yep.
Sonic. So it's, okay. So software for open networking in the cloud.
Yeah.
What if they did an
like,
open source, not exactly open source, but a free version of Windows Server to compete? Because it's still the best experience, right? I mean, isn't that what Nadella has been saying?
I don't think
make the best experience be.
I actually think I think they're setting sail on that stuff.
They don't even
the
care
server
about that.
stuff. I mean, they're bringing it along, and there are customers. Really, it's not so much on-prem versus cloud anymore. It's hybrid versus pure cloud. And there's some stuff in some companies that maybe will always have to be on locally controlled server hardware, but that's going to be the exception, not the norm. And I don't think selling a free version of Windows Server advances their goals, which is to get everyone in the cloud and subscription services and all that kind of stuff.
Cloud's where it's at, man. Where it's at, baby. To the cloud. Didn't they say that? To the cloud.
I've heard that somewhere. Yeah.
That was like OneDrive, wasn't it? Or Outlook.com or something?
No, I think it was Office 365. Remember, she was sitting. It was the mom was going to do the soccer calendar, and she says to the cloud, and then everything turns into Office 365.
Oh, the guys who made that ad must have just been like, nailed it.
We were right. See, we told you. And I love it that Microsoft is now joining the Eclipse Foundation. Eclipse is an IDE that is widely used, interestingly, for Android development, among other things. It's open source.
Masochists, as we might call them.
It isn't the best, most elegant IDE ever. I'll grant you that.
To the tune that Google has created their own Android.
Yeah, Google has.
IDE.
Well, they bought IntelliJ or licensed IntelliJ, and they make their own. But people suffered with Eclipse people used Eclipse for a long time.
Sure.
And it's not bad.
We used to use witchcraft to heal people from diseases and leeches and so forth.
Paul reminded me of his rant in San Francisco last year when we saw some Java developers.
Because we were there during Oracle World, right? I was already on edge because of this. There was like Oracle people everywhere.
Yeah. What did you tell them? Did you start like yelling
at the
at them?
hotel and I said, "Attention, everybody! You are wasting your lives."
Yes.
Did you really?
Yeah, we're standing waiting for a cab.
It's not a joke.
He might as well have had a washboard on with like the end is near. Yeah.
Like, who are all these idiots? What is this?
It's over.
Oracle people. Oh boy.
You couldn't have really been more wrong, could you, Paul?
Listen, this is my life story in a nutshell.
Not to rub it in, but
it's one comeuppance after another.
Well, I, for one, am happy. I think open source is great. I think the cloud is great.
You hippie.
I am a hippie. I'm a hippie.
You and your Bernie Sanders can take your Linux.
I am wearing sandals and socks even as we speak.
Wow.
My Birkenstocks.
You'd fit right in Seattle, man.
Oh, boy.
No, I think this is good. So what are they going to do with Eclipse? I mean, does this mean they're going to contribute to it? Is it they're just giving money? What are they doing?
Yeah, they've got an Azure toolkit for Eclipse.
So
Their
you would
Java
use
SDK.
Eclipse. That's so weird because they make Visual Studio, which is the most amazing IDE ever.
I know.
Yep.
I know.
Yep.
That, by the
They're
way,
just
speaking
letting
of free
developers bring what they want. Use the
Yeah,
tools you want.
That's what should be free. And by the way, I know they have free versions of it. I'm just saying, stop making versions of SQL Server.
I don't
just give
understand.
the damn thing away
Yeah,
for free. I have no idea what
I don't
that's all
understand
about.
That really, yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. They're doing some plugins too for Eclipse and open sourcing them, of course. So yeah, they're doing things.
These are words that make sense in isolation, but when you put them together like that,
I don't like it.
it's just confusing to me.
I don't understand the modern world. Let's go back to Windows 3.1.1.
This is all leading me toward the cabin in the woods that I will eventually live in that's shielded from technology.
You're sounding now like those Windows Phone guys who say, I don't like
listen, the truth is, I am those Windows Phone guys. 90% of what I do when writing about Windows Phone, people, oh, you hate Windows Phone. No, I'm trying to help myself here. I am that person. It is hard for me to, I see the logic of it. I can sort of explain it. But at some deep fundamental level, it's still hard for me because that platform, I think, was something special.
And there is money from Microsoft's point of view. There's plenty of business opportunities in this new world, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
They're entering. It's interesting because they're entering into competition not as number one, at least not in cloud services. And so there's challenges.
Yeah.
By the way,
it's
funny. It's weird.
They do their best work, right? I mean, they really do.
Anybody does, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but I know just from following Microsoft, I mean, in some ways, the headiest times when they were on the rise, if you want to just talk about the server stuff, was at Windows NT. And this kind of push into workgroup computing, and then this kind of push into businesses at a deeper level, and all these other servers, and it's exciting, and they did a good job, and it was just mostly the right approach.
It was the best.
And then they control things, and it's like things kind of fall apart at that point. And so them being in an underdog position in some ways is
not bad.
More interesting for me, and for us, I guess, because they have they're fighting now. They're fighting. They're scrapping. It's forces them to do better work.
Yeah.
It also gives them the answer when people say, you know what, I would use Azure, except I want to use Java with it. And now it's like, well, you can.
Would you just slap someone like that in the face, though?
They're out there. These people.
That's why I don't run Microsoft, I guess. Well, I mean, by the way, so when you don't control the market, you do things for customers.
Right? I know.
No, I mean, no, it sounds so.
I know.
It sounds basic, but when you're in control, you do things to maintain that control.
Right.
No,
it's a very good point.
It's a big difference.
Point well taken. Yeah. So it's a better company for that. It's just weird when you have total dominance in a market, as Microsoft does on the desktop. Still 90-some% dominance. To kind of abandon. I mean, they're not abandoning it, but it looks a little.
You have to look ahead, right?
The future.
Yeah.
Right. If Microsoft just stayed the way it was now and said, "Hey, we still have 90% of the desktop," in 5 years, they're not in a good place, right?
Right.
Or even 2 years.
Right. We have 90% of something that is going away.
Yeah.
or at least shrinking in some capacity. Yeah. Yeah.
You have to.
But this is what I mean. I can look at what they're doing, and it makes sense to me. For me, I really am interested in this client stuff, whether it's phones and tablets or PCs or whatever. I mean, I just
Yep.
This is it's actually I moved back. I grew up in Dedham, and I moved back, and it's interesting to watch my childhood be destroyed in front of me. And so, like, the middle school that I went to was plowed down to the ground, and they put in this giant eco-friendly middle school thing that is like a spaceship from the future, and it's part of my past that's just now gone. It's better, right? The thing is that's there is better. There's no doubt about it. And for me, Microsoft is a little bit like that, right? It's the stuff that I kind of came of age with is going by the wayside. It's a hard transition.
Yeah. They paved
I
paradise
like it
and
myself.
put up SQL Server.
I like it.
Well,
You know
you are
why?
more people who can adapt to the times.
Yeah.
It also
Are,
it gives us more to
better
write
people in
about.
many ways, right?
It gives us more to
yeah,
write about.
Sure. Oh, I agree. I know. That's true.
You chose the wrong. You chose the wrong field, Paul. If you don't want things to change.
Could it just stay the same? That's all I'm asking for.
Yeah.
No, I'm really not asking for that. But
No, I'm with you because when I went back to my old grade school and it was gone, it was raised for apartments. It was like, what?
it's strange, right? It's a strange feeling.
Weird feeling.
Yeah.
That's called getting old, Thurrott. You better get used to it.
Well, I'm doing it with my usual aplomb. So.
Kicking and screaming every step of the way.
Yep.
All right, let's take a break. We're going to come back with more, including some Redstone news. Now that I play Minecraft, all the Microsoft code names are starting to make better sense.
Let me ask you a question, Leo. Do you play Minecraft on Windows or do you play it on?
You know what?
Something
It's written in
else.
Java. It runs everywhere. Probably used Eclipse, too.
I'm positive.
Actually, that's an interesting thing. Microsoft is, I believe, rewriting Minecraft, slowly moving the code base over to
C Sharp, right?
C Sharp.
Yeah, I heard that.
And so when you play it now on Xbox, it's the same version as the Minecraft Personal Edition on tablets and on phones. And that's the new code base, I would guess.
Wow.
And
Are they writing it in
compatible with
C
the old-
Sharp or C++? Which one?
I don't know.
Yeah, but it's not Java, I think is the point.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that-
standalone
one of
code.
the- Yeah, one of the big things reasons that Minecraft is so successful is because it's extensible. And I don't know anything about this exactly, but I assume that a lot of that extensibility might be based in some knowledge of Java. And I'm sure that this switch of the code base is causing some.
You know, I haven't heard any cries yet. A lot of the ways people extend it. Well, actually, that's an interesting question.
Yeah, I don't really know, but you could see where that might cause a stink.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually,
So
I would bet you.
which do you think will happen first? All of the versions of Minecraft are compatible with each other, so you can start a game on your computer
Which I
and
would
continue
love.
on the Xbox. I know. I don't understand why that's not even there.
Well-
or SQL servers on Linux. Which do you think will happen first?
Yeah. Well, I think I don't know. Minecraft's a pretty big part of Microsoft's strategy, oddly enough.
Sure. All right, so then we do the calculus.
Yeah.
Minecraft, SQL Server.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which one,
Well, I'm
which
sure
one-
SQL Server is a much bigger business than Minecraft, but
Yeah.
the future belongs to Minecraft. I believe that's the song.
future belongs to Minecraft. that is a bold statement.
I think there's a documentary. No, it's because you basically have a complete fork in the code base, and the Minecraft PE. By the way, the Windows 10 version of Minecraft, the one in the store, is the PE version. It's not,
Which is the mobile
C#
version.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, and the C Sharp. Okay.
it's the C#. It's the new code base version. And so that means all the servers it's not compatible with the third-party servers out there. It's not compatible. You're right, probably with all the add-ons. Very interesting.
Microsoft did this with Skype, didn't they? When they got the code base for Skype, wasn't it? In
Yep, and they
Java?
handled that great. So no worries with Minecraft.
But same
It'll be
thing,
fine.
right? They had to redo
Sure.
the whole thing.
That's interesting.
Wasn't it?
It's really
Because
interesting.
Delphi, it was originally written in Delphi, the Windows client.
What?
The
For
Skype
Skype?
was originally Delphi.
What? Get out of here. Shut the front door. Our show today brought to you by FreshBooks. If you're a freelancer, you guys, if you have your own business, you know that accounting is one of the big challenges, because that's not, unless your business is accounting, then it's easy. But if it's not accounting, then the thing you're good at is probably something kind of the opposite of. And so that's why it's such a pain at the end of the month when you get all the paperwork together, do the receipts, do the invoices. It's the last thing you want to do, become an Excel guru on the 30th of every month. I got a great idea. It saved my life. FreshBooks, the ridiculously easy to use cloud accounting software. And by the way, as we get close to tax time, you will really appreciate FreshBooks. Probably too late for this year, but do it now for next year. It'll make your taxes way less taxing. You can create and send invoices, of course. That's where FreshBooks started. That's how I started using it. You get paid online quickly with FreshBooks payments. Really speeds everything up. And isn't that, really, that's the whole point of the invoice, is get paid fast. You can also request a deposit in FreshBooks and get paid up front. so you don't have to cover costs out of pocket or wait till the end of a project to get paid. I like that. And they made it incredibly easy for you to track billable time now with the FreshBooks app. You press start, stop, it goes right into the invoice. In fact, the app also will let you take pictures of expenses, with the receipts, so your expenses go right into the invoice easily. And from there, of course, to your tax preparer. So it streamlines that whole process. FreshBooks.com/Windows. That's where I want you to go right now to find out more about FreshBooks. You will really love it. And I came to appreciate it so much when I was a freelancer. They keep adding new features like the EMV chip card enabled card reader. Now you can accept credit cards wherever business takes you quickly and securely. Their new iPhone app completely redesigned. It works with the EMV chip card reader. So that's EMV means you can it's PIN compatible. So they can dip the chip or swipe the stripe, and it doesn't matter. Plus, you'll create beautiful invoices in just seconds. So with FreshBooks, you focus on what you love to do, not on the paperwork. Look, try it free for 30 days. You wonder why you didn't start it sooner. Go to freshbooks.com/Windows. All I ask when you go there and you sign up for the free trial, make sure you tell them you heard it on Windows Weekly. 30 days free. freshbooks.com/Windows. We thank FreshBooks so much for their support of Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott, Mary Jo Foley. We're talking about Windows. And so the first version of Windows 10 was Threshold.
Yes.
And so ever since the Threshold 2 came out, it's now Redstone.
Right. They've been working on Redstone.
And so people on the insiders ring are getting Redstone updates.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
But me, as a normal user, I'm still on Threshold 2, right?
Yeah.
When does Redstone 1 happen? For me.
The rumor is June of this year.
And then now they're already starting with Threshold 2, or they're talking about it, right?
Redstone 2. Yep.
I mean, this Redstone 2, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So we've known for a while there were going to be 2 versions of Redstone coming out, and they were supposed to be both out this year, this calendar
really?
year. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Just like, Threshold 1 and Threshold 2.
So like a year later.
Right. A year later,
like
Redstone
every
1 and
6
Redstone
months
2.
kind of thing.
Yeah,
Right.
July
Yeah.
and then whatever, November. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
No?
But
But
No?
now it looks like
They're rewriting
Redstone
it
2
in Java. Oh, no.
is
Yep.
no, not being written in Java.
well, they have to
Not being open
re-architect
source.
it for Minecraft.
That's it.
No, not being ported to Linux. No. Redstone 2 is now sounding like a spring 2017 thing instead of a late 2016
That's
thing.
a big difference.
And why is that, Mary
And
Jo?
why is that?
Right.
Mary Jo?
So the why is the kind of interesting part. My guess when I first heard this rumor, which when Beta had first, they had it first, and when I saw it, I'm like, that can't be right. But then I started asking around, and I said, oh, yeah, it is actually right. I thought maybe it was because enterprises were pushing back and saying to Microsoft, we don't like this twice a year thing. That's too fast. But it's not that.
No.
It's that Microsoft is planning a new device wave of things running Redstone 2, and it's not going to be ready until spring 2017. So
Which
they're
leads to a
holding it.
natural question. Does that mean that the device wave one might have expected at the end of this year, around the original time of Redstone 2, meaning Surface Book
Right.
2, Pro 4,
Surface Pro 5.
maybe a Band 3, maybe a Surface Phone? Does that mean that stuff waits until early 2017 and doesn't happen in the fall? Or does this mean an additional hardware wave?
My belief is yes, this means that fall wave is going to be spring 2017, but I don't know that for a fact.
Yikes.
I think what still could happen is maybe they still could do something like a Surface 4 this year, maybe even a new band this year, maybe even a Surface Phone this year, because
And
I
then
think
let's skip the 2 main machines.
right. I think the main reason for the pushback is I would guess they are going to try to use the KB Lake processor family, and that doesn't come out until very late this this calendar year in volume.
And as we discussed privately, Microsoft probably is not going to be first out the gate this time around, like they were with the Skylake stuff. I think that
Better, and so many people are like, "Wow, they're going to miss holiday." Okay, I know there are some people who got a Surface Book for Christmas and a Surface Pro 4, but most people, those are business machines,
it's not a
right?
Christmas present.
No, not so much.
What about HoloLens? I mean, do you see a HoloLens milestone attached to this as well? Maybe the version for business or even the version for consumers? Is that too soon?
Consumers, I bet way too soon. But business, maybe business HoloLens spring 2017 could be.
Right.
Maybe. Yeah.
The Insider program is going gangbusters in the sense that for the first time in the past couple of years, they've said they're going to release more builds at a rapid pace, and they really have, and that's been very interesting to watch. But it seems like Microsoft historically has gotten into this bind where they're going to speed up the development of something, and we're going to see releases more quickly. And this Redstone thing, the original schedule made sense to me. Twice a year, you're going to have some milestone release. And it's just a way to refresh the code base. It doesn't even have to have lots of new features or whatever, but I like being able to grab the latest version of Windows 10, download the ISO, and then you have almost nothing to install in Windows Update. If you install Windows 8.1 today from scratch, you will have several hundreds of updates to install. It's a miserable experience. And it's too bad that this is happening in a way. Like, I almost wish that they would still do that every 6-month thing, regardless of the progress of Redstone 2. That if the big stuff from there has to be spring, then this should still be a 16.11 release.
You want a server pack is what you want. You want a hotfix roll-up.
But I want it on a predictable schedule.
Maybe it's lunchtime and I'm hungry, but hotfix roll-up sounds delicious.
It really does. Yeah, exactly. Bacon.
I've heard that the plan remains to have 2 to 3 versions of like these big feature bundles come out per year. So this year is going to be an aberration, but after that, the idea is 2 or 3 bundles.
This year has already been an aberration.
It has. Linux, what next? I know. Yeah. So I think the idea, the goal, the plan remains have 2 or 3, even 3 of these feature bundles, these major feature bundles come out per year as part of the Windows as a Service paradigm.
Gotcha.
But this year, I believe there may just be 1, and it'll be Redstone 1 in June. But you know what? If you're in the Insider program, you're still going to see all the things that are being lined up for Redstone 2, right? I mean, they're going to still be coming in the Insider build. So it isn't going to just be like you get Redstone 1 and then there's nothing till spring 2017. If you're in the Insider program, you'll see
of course.
These features.
I'm thinking more of normal people, So if you got a PC that was made in August and you bought it in November and opened it on Christmas morning, you have months of updates to install, and it's not going to be horrible. It's not like the 8.1 days or previous. I know that, but I just think one of the big benefits of the current system is that you don't have that horrible out of box experience. They really solved it. I thought, I think they still have, but.
You remember I wrote about that convenience roll-up thing that they were talking about doing for Windows 7, and then they seemed like they weren't going to do it. I kind of bet they're going to come back and rethink that, because just for the exact thing you're saying, this is a horrible experience. You want to have all these
Windows 7 is even worse.
Right.
If only to get that Windows 10 advertising into the operating system, just inject that right in. That would be a reason enough.
I wouldn't be surprised to see them rethink the idea of not doing that.
Yeah, I'm really surprised they didn't follow through on that. Yeah. They're going to do one for Windows 8 as well.
It just doesn't have to be Redstone 2. It could just be.
Yeah.
No, I mean, we're talking about for the older systems, because Windows 7 and Windows 8.1 in particular are supported for many years to come. And for the many businesses in particular who would be installing Windows 7, do
they not update the ISO? I mean, how do people install it? I mean, they...
Yeah, businesses must have a way of applying updates for deployment purposes. But it's still a
slipstream the ISO.
Slipstreaming kind of got very difficult, though.
Did it?
It's not.
You can't do that anymore.
It's not as simple as it used to be. If they had just done the Service Pack thing straight through. I mean, I think they stopped with Service Pack 1 in Windows 7, right? There was no Service Pack 2, and then there's never been a Service Pack for Windows since. They need to roll that stuff up. It just if you can apply that all in one big chunk, it's it still takes a bit of time, but it's much easier. The way that they do it now in Windows 10, where it's cumulative, is so much better. So much better.
Yeah. So all this Redstone being tied to the hardware thing harkens back to what we heard when Terry Myerson took on the Windows and the devices team, and that's. These two teams are now way closer than they were before. So that when they're designing the next version of Windows, they're talking to the Surface team and saying, what features do you guys want to light up?
It's funny because that's kind of how it used to be, right? You wouldn't get a new version of Windows until you got new hardware.
Right.
Yeah.
But
and that's
now
how it is on iPhone. I mean, it is how on Android.
Well, but now we have Microsoft hardware, right? So Microsoft PCs, Microsoft phones, Microsoft video game consoles. I mean, there's all wearables and it's interesting.
Yeah.
So will we get the great Surface phone in the fall, you think?
Man, that's the one I wonder about, right? Because you could look at it either way. Either you could say, hey, it's an ARM-based, if it is an ARM-based device, which I bet it is.
Right.
It isn't bound by this whole KB Lake thing, right? So there's no reason technically they couldn't. But if they want to do
there are many reasons not to from a business perspective. I mean, true. Honestly,
true.
They killed Surface Mini last year. It seems like it was longer ago than that, but let's say last year.
No, it was when Nutella took over. So
it was when SP3 came out. So that was actually 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So because that was going to be the big thing, the Surface Mini, not Surface Pro 3. Whatever it was, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Listen, if you apply that same logic to Surface Phone, you don't make Surface Phone. I just can't see them releasing a Surface Phone at this point.
Well, if they were to do one, which some people still think they might, the question is, do you hold that and make it part of the big hardware launch like they had this past October? The band wasn't based on Windows 10, but they still rolled it out as the family, right? And maybe they're going to do that again in the spring.
I would, if you're going to release it and you're going to release it as an ARM device, 820 Snapdragon, whatever. I don't think you wait. I mean, if you're going to do it.
Yeah.
It's so cute. I get tweets from people saying, Continuum proves that they're going to do a Surface phone.
Yep.
In fact, it's just the beginning of the...
Yeah, no, this is the comeback.
Comeback. It's the comeback. They use that word.
We have them right where we want them.
So cute. It reminds me a couple of years ago.
This is that when in the Rocky music when it's like gong, and the music's just about to start. This is that time.
Mm-hmm.
They're on the ropes. They just don't know it yet.
A couple of years ago, I used to get the same tweets and emails from BlackBerry fans who were convinced.
Yeah.
It was about to turn around.
It might be the same people, by the way.
Yeah, I switched from BlackBerry to Windows Phone.
I refer to them as the patron saints of lost causes.
Oh, that would be so sad. Oh, my God.
I don't know. I still feel like there could be a Surface Phone. I do.
It's like a Mets fan. It's an interesting. It's an interesting group of people. I still think we're at 50-50 on Surface Phone. I guess what I'm saying is if Surface Mini didn't make sense at that time, there's no way Surface Phone makes any sense.
But that was running a deprecated operating system. That was going to be an RT device, right? The last RT device.
Yeah, speaking of
Mini was killed. Mini was killed kind of as RT was killed. So who knows what really was the kiss of death there. I guess you could say we'll kill the Windows Phone platform, but that doesn't seem likely.
So I'm not privy to what information they have, but if it works out like, okay, so we could ship this ARM-based thing now or in the spring with the other stuff, or we could wait 1 year and have an Intel-based device. I say you ship a couple of Lumias this year and call it a day. I mean, and then see how the market goes. But I also think you can point to this recent Mobile World Congress and say, look, we actually had a bunch of companies come on board with new Windows phones. And one of them in particular, that HP X3 is particularly
no kidding.
Excellent.
I don't think you want to bet the company on what Intel's going to do. next year. Intel's been struggling with mobile for years.
Well, I don't mean it like bet the company, but, in other words, if we could turn this thing into what it really should be, which is a tiny Windows PC that can actually run desktop apps on board, on the device, not because you're going to run iTunes at a little screen, but because you're going to dock it and use Continuum, like that person suggested, on a big screen, not like a PC, literally a PC. That kind of device makes sense. I think they're stuck in this timing kind of a thing because the Snapdragon, run it virtually, or not virtually, but run it remotely. Well, I guess and virtually, run it remotely, let's say, is cute for businesses, but that's not going to fly for people.
Well, but who cares what people think? It's the businesses they're going after. No, really.
Well, I know
they
that.
can write off consumers.
But that's why it's okay for HP to do it today.
No, I'm sure they're watching with great interest to see what the X3 does, to see how it does.
Yes,
right?
But I don't think that, first of all, it's not going to appear in market long enough to help them make this decision. I mean, it's not coming out till the end of the summer. And so I'm thinking September at the very earliest. It's going to be a long time from now. So it's not going to help Microsoft make a Surface Phone decision. But if there was any way that an Intel-based Surface Phone could make sense, that's the point where I think you say, you know what, it's just a PC, it's a Surface, it's fine. Put it out in the world. I think that
it's just a little
makes
Surface.
Sense. Yeah, it's a cute little Surface.
It's a baby Surface.
Yes, right. It's a tiny little milk bottle that you can put on it.
Well, so Redstone 1 is not out even for the insiders, or is it?
It is, and they've actually been on a pace recently where they're shipping more than one build every week, which is incredible. And to date, until this week, all of the builds we've seen are actually, maybe was this week or that last week? I'm losing track when this stuff happens. Until this week, let's say, what we were seeing was just core updates because they're changing some of the stuff behind the scenes. And we just got the first notable new features, in one of the recent builds that I think came out this week. It's nothing major. It's just, if you're a Windows 10 user, you may remember the drama around, the default background, which is that Windows logo with the light shining through it. If you customize your wallpaper on the desktop and you customize your lock screen background to other images, that image used to still appear on the what they call the sign-in screen, right, where you actually type in your PIN or your password, and there was no way to change it. And so Microsoft quickly put a switch into settings where you could kind of just turn that off, and it was a black screen. And now what they've done is they've made that option so that you can turn it to be the same screen as the lock screen, which makes all kinds of sense because if you think about the lock screen and whatever beautiful image is there, when you tap a button or you swipe on the screen, what appears is your user picture and the login box, but now it appears over the same exact background. Right. So it's a real seamless looking kind of thing. So it's only taken us, 9 months to get to that change or whatever. But no, but it's nice. I mean, it's a little thing. It's some minor Cortana stuff. You can do, you don't have to fully fill out a Cortana reminder, for example. In the past, if you said something like, hey, remind me to buy milk, it would say, okay, add a person or place or a time to complete this reminder. Now it will just say, okay, I'll remind you to buy milk, and you can edit it if you want, but it will just, that's enough. It's enough to do that kind of thing. So some small features, but we're finally seeing our first peek at what Redstone, will be. I mean, obviously there are going to be bigger features and more features, but this week was the first time, I think, unless I missed something, where we saw what I would call notable new features.
Yeah, I think all the rest was under the covers, right? Like all the stuff they said they were doing for one core.
Yeah, I have a hard time keeping track of the builds, by the way. I don't know about you, but
the numbers.
There are builds that go out to different groups, and concurrently with this. In fact, we might have this in the notes. I think I added it. Maybe we didn't. I don't know. Oh, yeah, it's the next thing. So there are also cumulative updates that increment the build number somewhat that go out to people on the public shipping version of Windows 10, right? And so you have all the different branches. You have insider builds and non-insider builds, and I don't know. Sometimes an insider build will go to the fast ring, and then it comes out. Yeah. Sometimes the builds come out for mobile as well, and sometimes it's the same build that seems to be a new thing, and sometimes
slow ring first before fast ring.
I know that was another one this week. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. We have a right. So Windows 10 users on the public shipping version of Windows 10 for PCs got a build this week. And then Windows 10 mobile users on the slow ring got the same build but not people in the fast
so
ring.
weird.
It's
Yeah,
really
it's-
Is that a screw up? That's a mistake.
like
No, you
it's,
need an Excel spreadsheet to keep track of this.
you need a SQL Server database on Linux.
I think you do. You do.
Now we're talking.
Now you're cooking with fire.
Ah, you're cooking with fire.
Yep.
I'm looking at your notes here. I don't see the anything about Tim Sweeney's rant against the
Yeah, that's true.
Universal
We could've
Windows
thrown that in.
platform. He of course, Tim is Epic Games. He was Gears of War.
Yep.
And he wrote a editorial, I think in The Guardian, saying that Microsoft's got to back down on this
So I
Universal
can talk
Windows
to that now if you
program.
want.
Yeah, I mean, this might be a good time, or
The quick version is he should have waited. He didn't have all his facts right. And as Phil Spencer pointed out on Twitter, a lot of his big contention, this closed platform, is not true. Like you can sideload these apps and games. You can distribute them from other stores. It's not a lock-in thing for Windows Store. It's not a requirement. And it kind of made him look a little stupid. You may recall the similar rant that Gabe Newell had from Steam and from it's the company that makes
Valve.
Yeah. When Windows 8 came out, he did the same thing. He complained about this exact thing.
Well, and I complained when Apple did the same thing with the App Store on Macintosh. My real fear was that Apple was going to lock down installs, just as they locked down on the iPhone, and almost every phone. I guess Android lets you sideload, but to their store, which would be anti-competitive. And that was his concern, is that someday you won't be able to buy games from a website of a game manufacturer.
So
you'll have to buy from the Windows Store.
I think the thing that happens on Windows and is what has happened on the Mac, right? Because that App Store has not been particularly successful. Is you can't let the genie out of the bottle. You can't put the genie back in the bottle on these platforms. These are legacy platforms. That doesn't happen. The only way you could ever do that is if something like what used to be Windows RT or like Windows 10 Mobile became the platform. Then at that point you could say, well, that is a lockdown system. But I think for desktop Windows and for the Mac, this is an overblown fear. And the kind of rant-like nature of this complaint sort of suggested that he didn't understand it wasn't 1998 anymore, and that Microsoft's control of this thing is not as vast as he thinks it is. I guess you can paint something like the Windows Store in different lights if you want to. I mean, from Microsoft's perspective, they're like, look, this thing has apps that we know to be safe, that are reliable, that are one-click uninstallable if that's what you want to do. For games in particular, they can integrate with the Xbox Live ecosystem and so forth. But you can still install Steam. You can still do EA Origins or whatever the other stores are. I mean, this doesn't take away from that stuff. I'd also say, especially for now, unless something changes pretty dramatically, even though games like Rise of Tomb Raider or Gears of War Ultimate Edition have appeared on the Windows Store and more will come, this is still not Steam, right? I mean, if you're a hardcore gamer, no one's coming over to the Play Store to buy games. I mean, this is for normal people. This is about expanding the market for games to a broader audience. People who are in the know already know where to buy their games. I just felt like the whole thing was kind of overblown, and it was kind of unfortunate. I think that if he had contacted, Phil Spencer or somebody from the Xbox team or whatever and said, these are my concerns, they would have said what they said on Twitter later, and he would have been like, oh, because I don't know if you saw Phil, what's the guy's name from the guy who complained, Tim Sweeney. Tim Sweeney responded to Phil Spencer on Twitter. It was like, oh, he's like, oh, that's great. Okay,
never mind.
Sorry about that.
Never mind.
I wish I'd done that. I just, it's a little overblown. I'm sorry, all this stuff is fanboy stuff, and it gets people's emotions going,
Yeah. There was this whole thread on Reddit that kind of felt like it spurred this whole thing, because there the people were asking, is there going to be a point when Microsoft says, you know what, if you don't do X, Y, and Z, you can't put something in the store? I mean, that's there to some extent now, but they were thinking about things like, what if I don't want to use DirectX 12? Will I be able to put my game in your store? And how much is Microsoft going to set the rules based on
Rise of the Tomb Raider doesn't use DirectX 12, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. But that's kind of how it is on the Mac side.
Yeah, I think that's
very
what got
limited what you
everybody
can do
riled, though.
In the Mac App Store. I'm not talking about iOS, but in the Mac OS X App Store, there's real limits on what a developer can do. And a lot of people just, you can still sideload. There's still Steam even on a Macintosh. But a lot of people appreciate the kind of the ease of the App Store. We were talking about this on Mac Break Weekly. Alex Lindsay says, well, it's great when I get a new machine, and this is true on Windows too. I just in one click install all the apps that I bought on the App Store.
Oh, by the way, that's one of the big benefits of the Windows Store, and I assume this is the case of the Mac Store as well, is that this thing is tied to your account, in this case a Microsoft account. And so you get this ability to install a game across multiple devices. That's one of the things they have to do. And so when you think about, it doesn't have to be games. Think about apps like Photoshop or whatever, where actually these days it's a subscription kind of license or whatever, but they probably have some limit on the machines you can put it on. And in the Windows Store, they specify what that is. And so I test a lot of computers, and so I can install Tomb Raider. Yeah, but not when I buy from Windows Store, because those things work on multiple devices. No problem. Yep. I don't run into that. I run into this problem all the time with Adobe Photoshop Elements, where I've exceeded the install number, but now I've blown away the computer, and I have to contact Adobe, and it's stupid. I'm not pirating anything. I just I bought something. I want to be able to use it.
But I think the point is that side loading is not going away. You're always
and to your point, you said earlier that there were fears when Apple came up with this on the Mac that they obviously saw what they had done on iOS and said, oh, we're going to do this and whatever. But I don't know that they ever had that grand plan. I bet that the reality is they wanted to expand the market for Mac because they knew they had all these new customers on iOS, and that one of the things they could do to make that happen would be to provide a similar store experience. So for some people, where they know they could go to that store and everything would be safe and they didn't have to worry about it, and it's sort of an iOS-like App Store experience, all that does is expand the market for the Mac. It doesn't prevent other stores from occurring or side loading of apps or web downloads of apps.
It does on iOS, but I don't think it will ever do that on iOS.
No, I mean on the Mac. I'm talking specifically
exactly.
About the Mac.
But that's what the fear came from as well. Look at how it's how they do it on iOS.
Oh, by the way, make no mistake. If Microsoft or Apple could get away with this on Windows or the Mac, they would absolutely do it.
They would.
But that's what's so crazy about the Tim Sweeney thing, because you're coming at this like, oh, you guys, you're going to lock this thing down. You have no idea how little power Microsoft has. Yeah. They are literally running by the seat of their pants. They have that's never going to happen.
Well, now that I can run SQL Server on Linux, I mean, they got no lock-in. Zero lock-in.
Exactly. They're literally punching themselves in the face. You have nothing to worry about.
No, and we're gonna learn more about the side loading stuff, and also I hope about what does it mean to be a universal app, not just a universal Windows app. All at Build, which is 3 weeks from today. So we're gonna hear a lot more.
There is an argument Apple makes, which is a good argument, that this is more secure, just as it's more secure on iOS. And what Apple has is this thing they call Gatekeeper, which is great. And there's 3 settings. You can say, it's not the default, but you could say only install apps from the App Store. That's the most secure.
And that's something you might do that as a parent for a kid.
Right. Or your parent, your parent if you're a kid.
You might, if you have that kind of restraint, you can do it for yourself.
And the default is a middle ground, which is actually something I would love to see Microsoft implement, which is you can install anything in the App Store or any app from any site if it's signed and if Apple has given the developer a certificate. And that helped Apple recently because there was a problem with the transmission, a BitTorrent client. Apple withdrew the certificate for the developer. The developer had actually applied for and gotten a certificate for malware.
Wow.
But because they withdrew the certificate, even if you had the malware, you could install it.
There is a sort of smart screen protection in Windows. It doesn't catch a lot of stuff, but I've run into it a few times where you'll download some sort of third-tier utility. This is a thing that will rip videos off of YouTube. This is a torrent client or whatever it is. And it will come up and say, this thing isn't, and I believe it's for the same reason, not signed or whatever. And you can get by it. There's a big, it's right in your face. You have to really pay attention to get through it. And they want you not to do it. But, it's Windows, right? This is the Wild West. So if you want to do it, you can do it. That's the point.
Yeah, Apple can be a little more restrictive, of course. And it's true. You can, even if something's unsigned, you can right-click on it and say, I don't care. Open it anyway. And,
I'm an admin. I don't have a password. I know everything.
I know everything. Don't worry.
I'm good. Nothing's ever happened
wrong.
to me.
Yeah. But I like that feature. I think that's a great feature. In fact, I know at least one person who didn't get bit by this transmission because cryptoware because he got stopped from the install by that warning. Hey, there's no certificate. You may not install this.
Nice.
That was, yeah. I mean, that's a success story. Anyway, I'm sorry. I know that's out of left field, but I thought
No, we
there was
forgot
enough
to put that in.
conversation about that I knew Paul had written about it, and so I wanted to bring that up. Hey, let's take a break.
It's like the ghost of Gabe Newell. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, Gabe said some nasty things, didn't he?
He was off the charts. And by the way, I mean, God, talk about picking on a little kid like you're going to beat up on Windows 8. I mean, geez.
Yeah.
Can't even defend itself. And then if you look at Steam's statistics today, Windows 10 is racing up the charts on Steam usage. It's huge. And you don't hear any complaining from Gabe anymore.
I suddenly like Windows better.
Yeah, no problem.
We're building a phenomenal gaming machine, which of course is a Windows machine. I'm so excited about it. Well, you know, nominally we're building it on the new screensavers. Nominally we're building it for the Oculus Rift when it comes out.
Right.
And the Vive. I ordered a Vive too. And those have pretty hefty requirements. Oddly enough, you'll like this. Palmer Luckey, the founder of Oculus Rift, was asked, when are you going to make Rift available on the Mac?
It's so beautiful.
He said, well, as soon as Apple makes a good computer, I'll make it.
Yeah. What's great about that is it's not some hyperbolic anti-Apple thing. He actually backed it up.
He likes Apple.
He said you could spend $6,000 on a Mac and you still can't get a video card that can run this thing.
I literally have the top of the line Mac Pro. And it won't run.
That's amazing.
Dual AMD graphics cards, and it won't run.
It won't run it.
So we're building a Windows machine.
Crazy.
But it makes, by the way, a wonderful Minecraft server. Just want to tell you that.
Sure.
It's what it's doing right now. It's running Minecraft. Our show today brought to you by something Paul and I love deeply and dearly. And I'm not talking about our mattress. I'm talking about,
Thank God.
But I'm talking about Audible. The greatest bookstore in the world. Audio books, such a boon. When I discovered them, I became an Audible subscriber in the year 2000. That's how long I've been a member. I should get a prize. 16 years I've been on Audible. Hundreds of volumes. And one of the things I like about Audible is when you buy a book on Audible, it's like buying a book anywhere. It's yours. It's in your library. So if I go to my library on audible.com, I can see and download and listen to all the books I've ever downloaded to and listened to, which is awesome. By the way, I'm listening right now to the biography of Alexander Hamilton because I'm getting ready to go see that show. Yep. And what a great story. Ron Chernow wrote a fantastic biography, 37 hours. And it takes you right back to the Revolutionary War. That's one of the things I love about Audible. These books transport you. And something about listening to a book brings it like a movie to the forefront. We're going to get you a free book right now when you go to audible.com/windows. Audible.com/windows. You'll be signing up for the gold account. That's a book a month. You see, I love it when my subscription renews because now I'm thinking, I have credit. Oh, what am I going to buy? Actually, I've already got one book in my shopping cart, and I'm kind of holding off. I can't wait to read. I really need to read this. Ta-Nehisi Coates' Between the World and Me. Very dramatic, beautiful story. He wrote it for his son, so his son would understand what it's like to grow up an African American in the United States. There's lots of stuff on Audible. It's not just history and biography, but there's science fiction. The new Kim Stanley Robinson just came out. Aurora. Love Kim Stanley Robinson. Love his stuff. They've also gone back, which is kind of fun, and they're re-recording with their Audible Frontiers program classic science fiction. So all the old, Have Spacesuit Will Travel. What is that, from the 50s? That is old Robert Heinlein. They got it all because they've decided to re-record it. What are you listening to these days?
I'm kind of stuck in this R.C. Bray fix, ever since The Martian. But after a year...
By the way, I want to point out, he's the reader.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
Right.
You love these books so much,
awesome.
And the person who reads them, you go, I got to hear some other stuff.
Yeah. I have 3-4 people I love. He's the best, obviously. But so I did The Martian. I did the entire Mountain Man series. Now this is new series. No, it's not new. It's new to me, I should say. People have been telling me to read this for the past year. Fear of the Sky, book 1. It's the Fear saga. It's a science fiction story. It's basically about aliens coming to Earth and launching a kind of a sneak attack kind of thing. It is awesome. It's awesome. And, it's like Mary Jo was saying, 75 degrees outside. I walked around for an hour. This is what I listened to.
Nice.
This is so good. This is Martian level good. It doesn't have quite as much humor, but there's some science behind it and a lot of, intelligent people talking about intelligent things kind of stuff. It's fantastic. It's really, really well written. And of course, R.C. Bray is amazing.
Fear the Sky. So here's the deal. You're going to get this book or any book of your choice. We like to give you some choices, but you can always browse the site. 99.5% of all the books are a single credit. You're going to get 1 credit a month. That's the subscription. And the first month's free. So if you cancel anytime in that first 30 days, you'll pay nothing. But, of course, the book is yours to keep. You also get the daily digest with a subscription of the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal. So you can listen in the car and catch up on the news. Yeah. Audible.com. Hey, do it right now. Audible.com/Windows.
You notice this book has 7,100 ratings, and it has a 4.5.
That's really good. Yeah. People love this book.
It's amazing. It's fantastic.
Wow. Yeah, Audible's an Amazon company, so they have the reviews, which really help you choose. The reviews don't just review the book; they review the reader too. And you can.
And it literally has no 1-star ratings for performance.
That's really.
He's
I
guess
he's
no.
a
I'm
star.
sorry.
On the outskirts of our solar system, there is a ring of broken lumps of rock and ice. They form a roughly spherical border, marking the outer reaches of the sun's influence.
I love him. He has such style. It's like, he's got a lot of personality, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's really good.
The reader is R.C. Bray, and it is the Fear the Sky, Fear Saga Book 1 from Stephen Moss. That's Paul's recommendation, but boy, you got a lot to choose from. Over 180,000 books. Audible.com/Windows. Let's move on. It was Patch Tuesday yesterday. I just got my Patch Tuesday. Anything to talk about there?
Actually, one thing, I just throw this in real quick. There was that new build we were talking about. This is the 3rd build Microsoft has released for Windows 10 for PC since they've been more transparent and they explain what's in the build, right? I guess
that's right. Yeah,
it's a cumulative update, but it increments the minor part of the build number. I thought of these things as monthly releases. In fact, I sort of thought of them as being tied roughly to Patch Tuesday, although they had released one earlier this month that was not Patch Tuesday. This is the second one they've released this month. So they had one last Tuesday, and then they had one this Tuesday.
That's
so
right.
I guess it could just be any time these things come out now. Incredible.
Huh.
It's really hard to keep track of.
Yeah, that may not be a good thing.
And then, Mary Jo, you should talk about this reminder because this is this continues to be a weird controversy.
Thank you for reserving.
Yes.
Great. So some people have been reporting before this Patch Tuesday, but even after yesterday, that they're suddenly seeing their PCs magically upgrade to Windows 10.
Somebody in the chat room, Lawn Dog, said his client just had that. Now,
Okay,
is this that because it's a recommended update thing, or?
Right. If you have automatic updates turned on,
Which you should.
Yeah. Well, in other words, recommended updates enabled.
Recommended updates turned
So by
on.
default, you have critical updates turned on. Do you have to go in and change the setting to have recommended as well?
Actually, I think recommended is the default.
That's the default.
It is.
On Windows 7 and Windows 8, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So but
it won't launch the installer. I mean,
right. You're not going to actually have this magically happen, I do not believe.
You're going to get this window.
So some people are getting a screen that says, hey, thanks for reserving your copy, even if you didn't reserve it. And click here to delay it or to cancel it. So that's one way you can cancel it. I also thought Microsoft had told.
Can I point out?
I know what Leo's thinking.
I'm looking at the buttons.
There's a giant OK button.
Yeah, that means install.
It's really hard not to click.
And then the
button.
next one, the one next to it is upgrade now. Isn't that the same thing?
Yep. It is. But look at that.
So where's the don't
tiny
upgrade button?
See that? See under the date? See in tiny print?
Click here.
Yeah. No, I guys, believe me, I'm not condoning this. I think this is horrible that Microsoft is doing this.
Yeah.
There's no cancel button. It's just OK or upgrade now. But there is.
Or cancel. There's the cancel. See it? Click here to change the upgrade or
Yeah.
to cancel.
But that's not where you expect the cancel button.
No.
You expect it down here next to the OK button.
Right. And
No,
they're
no,
definitely trying to
they're being
trick
terrible
people.
about this.
They're trying to trick people. There's no other way to say this.
Oh,
They're
dear.
hoping people will accidentally click on this. And if you do, you still have to give it the final okay on the EULA. If you don't answer yes, you're not going to get it. But how many people know that either, right? So if you accidentally do get Windows 10, you have a month.
You have to
roll
do
back.
those two things you just described. I mean, you're not going to wake up with Windows 10 on your computer unless you did those two
Didn't
things.
Andrew Zarian tell you that he got updated without
That's
doing
his screen. That's his
this
screen
is from
right
him.
there.
Okay.
Yep.
I think we can all agree, though, that Andrew probably wasn't paying attention.
He just click.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean,
Maybe he
look,
clicked
all
it.
I can say is they've made this mistake in the past. You know, this thing downloads to people's computers and so forth. They are being very aggressive about it. I also disagree with this approach, but it's what they're doing. Okay, fine.
Right.
Is Microsoft nefariously, secretly installing Windows 10 on people's computers on purpose? Come on, guys. Come on.
They're just trying to get you to say okay.
Yes.
If you
They're
would
trying
just
every
buy
way they
games from
can.
the Windows Store, everything will be fine.
Yeah.
Yep. Then there's also reports that in yesterday's Patch Tuesday, one of the KBs, 3146449, is suddenly relaunching the Get Windows 10 thing on people's PCs if you have Windows 7 and 8.1. So there are ways to shut this thing off too that are not for average users, normal
There's
people.
that
but
third-party control panel, the GWT
There is.
thing, and that'll work still.
yes, I believe that
Okay.
will work.
So if you get this thing, GWT will remove it again.
yeah.
Guys, just upgrade to Windows 10.
Really,
Come on.
honestly,
Let's put an end to this controversy.
just do
upgrade.
it. Just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it.
You know what? So I still am running Windows 7 on my main machine, and I'm waiting to see what happens. And I haven't gotten this reminder lately. I think somebody went in and said, make sure Mary Jo does not get this.
Yes.
Because
Right. There's like a little file
gonna-
on your computer that
yeah.
actually prevents it from happening.
I know. But I haven't gotten it. I haven't been, and I have automatic updates turned on and recommended updates turned on. I have everything turned on, but I don't have it. So I'm not saying people are lying, but I'm just saying be careful and tell other people to be careful.
Well,
not to hit the okay.
We know people don't pay attention. People
I know.
jumped through an iTunes EULA, a Windows EULA without even paying attention to the date at the top, let alone the rest of it.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah. If you have a reason you want to stay on Windows 7, you should be able to, and Microsoft shouldn't be harassing you.
I agree. Look, even if they want to throw these things up, one of the options should be cancel. And you should look. They want to push it on you. Give me 3 more months. Give me 6 more months. Give me some amount of time. I mean, this is
Give me
this
5 more years. Yeah.
Or whatever. I mean, well, no, you could make the case like, look, hey, Windows 10 is only free through July, whatever. Can we remind you before then? Because we're trying to save you money here. We think you're going to want to do this. It's okay. I mean, it'd be okay to do that. But
Yeah. Here's
it's a little heavy.
somebody listening right now, Eric Chu. All my company domain join computers got the pop-up after yesterday's Patch Tuesday, and I had to tell all my employees to ignore it.
Or you could do what Ben Stiller does.
Oh, I love it. Great stuff. Yeah, you look like just like a rich cowboy who came riding in off the farm. Hey, do me a favor. Tip your hat forward. Just tilt it forward. Come on.
I like it where it is.
No, seriously. Come on. Do it. Do it.
Do it.
Will you stop with that? That voice makes you sound crazy.
Do it.
It's not making me sound crazy. It makes me sound like Maury Finkel, founder of Finkel Fixtures, biggest lighting fixture chain in the Southland.
Do it.
Oh, it's a little voice and a character. You got a whole backstory. That's good.
Yeah, little touches. Little touches, little details. You want to make the character full, real. What are you gonna do? What's your character?
Do it. Just do it. Do it.
I ran into that guy in the streets of New York a couple of years ago, and he's about 4 feet tall.
Just do
He
it.
also looks like he's about 85 years old.
Is that the Wedding Crashers? I think it is. Just do it.
What is that from?
What is it from?
Here, do it.
It's not Zoolander, the original Zoolander.
Do
He
it.
means a kiss. We're doing little voices undercover.
Do it.
Come on, sweetie. Do it.
Do it.
Oh, that's a sweet little pucker. Do it. Lay down right here. Do it. Do it.
Do
He
it.
means a kiss. We're doing little voices undercover.
Come on, sweetie. Do it. Oh, that's a sweet
No, Ben
little
Stiller
pucker.
wasn't in Wedding
I love
Crashers.
it.
All right. I don't know what it is, but I love it.
Yeah. I don't
Oh, it's Starsky and Hutch.
know.
That's what it
Starsky
was.
and Hutch.
Starsky and Hutch.
Wow.
Do
is
it.
Really?
Just do it. Do it.
That's good stuff.
Windows 10. Just do it. They should honestly hire Ben Stiller in that character, do an ad. Who would say no? Just do it. Windows 10.
Just pop up in the corner of the screen. Do it.
Do it. Just do it.
You're moving your mouse away, and he's kind of pushing it back.
Do it. Do it. Slack time. Should we talk about Slack? Was this close. This close. And then Bill Gates and Satya Nadella. Who are they? Said no.
Adults.
Adults. Adults. So the rumor. There was a rumor. Right? Yeah.
Right. Rumor from TechCrunch saying Microsoft almost decided to pay $8 billion to buy Slack, but then at the last minute, Gates and Nadella said, "No, we should spend that money fixing Skype instead."
Do it. Just do it. Just buy it. Do it. You know, it's one of those acquisitions where you buy the company and then it was a wasted $8 billion because, you know, it doesn't take off. And
let me ask you this, though. Would it be worth $8 billion? Because they're definitely taking customers. I mean, the Slack is very successful.
I think Slack is peaking.
You do? Okay.
But I don't know. But I feel like it might be because I'm starting to hear a little pushback from people. Because you know what Slack did? First of all, Slack won because it was beautiful. It was slick.
Yeah.
You know, Stuart Butterfield, the guy who created Flickr, it was his startup. Mm-hmm. It answered a need because email is just a pain. Now people are saying, now instead of having a full inbox, I got 28 Slack channels. And the worst thing about Slack is they're
never off.
It's never off, and it's full of animated GIFs and entertaining weirdnesses. And suddenly, it's actually more annoying. What was that plug-in for email? Remember that gave you beautiful, elaborate HTML dancing chicken emails? It was like that.
That sounds
it's
terrible.
It's like that. It's like email, only worse.
I like email, but could it have the blink tag?
Exactly. You know? So I feel like, I mean, I love Slack. We use it, but I feel like it might be, the risk is, and I bet you this is what Satya and Bill were thinking, that it's peak Slack. Slack is at its peak.
But what if Slack maintains this momentum? What if Google buys Slack? I mean, is it worth $8 billion to get a competitor out of the market? Is it worth $8 billion to keep it away from Google?
Here's what I would say. Skype is not, I think it's, Skype's not going to become the next Slack.
No.
They don't have a product that's...
Skype can't even become the next Skype.
You know, I think that they maybe looked back at the Yammer acquisition and said, you know, we did this once before and it didn't really do anything.
Well, okay. But so Yammer was a lot less money. It was like $1.2 billion, I think, off the top of my head. And it was... duplicated functionality. Microsoft was pretty much already adding to SharePoint. Like I remember when that happened and thinking, like, actually SharePoint has these social networking features that a lot of people just don't even know exist. But I didn't quite understand what the point of that one was.
Yeah, but you know, I guess people said that about Skype too. When Microsoft bought Skype, everyone's like, well, they already have Link. Link does what Skype does, right?
But they were buying the brand.
Yeah. They were,
right.
and maybe this is.
And how much was
Slack has a brand. Slack has a very.
How much did Skype cost? Do you remember?
8.2.
No, it was 8
billion. Also,
and that was when a dollar was a dollar.
Oh, sorry, 8.5 billion for Skype.
Okay, so it was a big acquisition.
Yep.
I mean, Mary Jo and I had discussed this, I think, earlier, and you know, it's like, are we really ready to re-architect Skype yet again? You know, like they bring like Slack in house, and we're going to go through this again. Because remember that the Skype system, when they bought it, was like a peer-to-peer kind of thing. Right. And Microsoft's Link system or Office Communicator or whatever it was when that happened was more of a typical client-server kind of deal. And they had to re-architect the whole thing so that, so that it would work, you know, scale better, and B, so that it would work across Microsoft's consumer and business customer offerings.
I don't, yeah, and, you know, the other reason Slack succeeds is because it is this kind of scrappy little independent.
Which is why I think it makes a lot of sense for a Google. Yeah. I think it would fit in with what Google does.
Yeah. By the way, we're not talking Google, Slack Linux.
No, I know.
That's not where.
No, in other words, but Google's going after the enterprise or going after businesses. I mean, assuming they're actually serious about that.
I don't know.
You know, it doesn't seem like Hangouts has taken off in any meaningful way. I know that's
No,
not
Hangouts
exactly
is
the
dead
same
at this point, I would say.
Right. So my take is, even though it duplicates what Microsoft's doing and they're saying they don't want it, I don't say never on this, because so this was the case for Yammer and Skype, you know. So
Sure.
This is how it begins.
I know.
Yep, this
and
is
you
the
know,
courting
maybe
ritual.
8 billion, maybe if the price was 2 billion or something.
Well, okay, so but this is based on valuation, right? A lot of people.
And Skype's out. I mean, Slack's out looking for money too. They're raising. Yeah.
I don't know anything about Slack. I just, but I look at what they did with Yammer and what they did with Skype, and I think, you know, this kind of falls into that category.
That's another one, yeah.
Collaboration. Yeah.
And if they're serious about wanting to own productivity, right? I mean, this is a key part of the puzzle. I agree that they could do everything they need to do with Skype, but the trick is getting people to use Skype instead of Slack.
Right.
Yep.
Or as I call it, S-Slack.
S-Slack.
Made by the people who brought you P-Interest.
P-Interest, exactly.
Yeah. Boy, I can't wait to play this new Fables Legend. It's going to be so great. It's, you know, it's like kind of Fables.
Are you going to play it on Windows or on the Xbox?
Probably not on either.
You know what the goofiest thing about this is? You know, this was a big part of last year's January Windows 10 event, right? Fables, Fable Legends, rather. Cross-platform play. You could play some people on the Xbox One, some people on Windows 10. Very exciting. I think it's interesting that it's a year plus later and it still hasn't come out yet, but okay, whatever. Now what?
So they're closing
really,
the studio, right? They're closing Lionhead Studios.
Well, they're definitely canceling the game.
And they're canceling the game.
They're probably going to close the studio. They actually haven't decided on that yet. And is it seriously because this game is terrible?
This was going to be the massively multiplayer online game version of Fables, which is a very popular game in itself. Boy, I don't know. I actually was looking forward to playing this. So I don't know. And you look at League of Legends, and you know, there's you know, Skyrim now has its online.
This is a fairly high-profile disaster in the game.
No kidding. How long has this been in development? This trailer alone must have cost millions.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
I know, it's crazy.
Although probably
I don't care about this kind of game personally, but
no, it's not your thing.
But I like the cross-play, you know, cross-platform nature of it. I thought that was really cool.
Are there any online games now that you can play on Xbox and Windows cross-platform?
Like together?
Yeah.
No. Not that I can think of.
Battlefront's not like that. Tamriel
Online. There's a lot of issues when you have people who can play with a mouse and a keyboard.
Right.
And have a certain level of precision.
It's very challenging.
People are in control. Yeah. I think this kind of game, I don't know, maybe this is a Windows Store type of thing. They could, can you force people to play on a controller? Probably not. I don't know. Maybe that was part of the problem.
Issue, yeah.
It worked. I don't know.
Looks like my kind of game, though.
It looks like it was there, doesn't it?
It sure looks finished, yeah.
Yeah, like it looks like a thing.
This is an old trailer, too. I think it's from last year's E3. I mean, it looks like it was finished.
Yeah. Well, they showed it off in January last year. I mean, yeah, it's very strange. Well, they also closed a Denmark-based studio, Press Play, I think it was called.
Oh, they do. Don't they do mobile stuff?
Not anymore, Leo. They're
never mind.
Yep, they're very strange.
Mind. All right, let's take a break. We got the back of the book coming up in just a moment. Our show today brought to you by a solution to a problem. In some ways, we all have. Savings account interest rates are so low now. They're well under 1%. Which means you're not, you could put, if you have long-term savings, put it in a savings account. Hey, it's liquid is probably not the way to do it. A CD, probably not the way to do it. You're going to need to invest. And if you're going to invest, if you're going to get in equities and all of that, you're going to need to pay attention. And a lot of us are thinking, well, I could do that. This is what I did. I could do that myself. I read all the books. Or maybe you're thinking, oh, I know. I'll hire an investment advisor. These guys are smart. They're going to really help me make a lot of money. How'd that work out for you? You know, these traditional advisors, they charge between 1 to 3% of the money they manage every year. That means you have to make 3% to break even, and that is hard. In today's market, it's really hard. And it doesn't include the hidden fees, the transaction fees. How about something that is a better system, something that watches your money 24/7, based on those books that I studied up on? The advisory board for Wealthfront, is some of the smartest people like Burton Malkiel. He wrote that great Random Walk Down Wall Street. Charles D. Ellis, Winning the Loser's Game. More than 200 years of investment experience, 16 investment books. This is Nobel Prize-winning academic research best practices. And because it's done by a computer, yes, it's done by a computer, it's round the clock. You're jumping on opportunities the minute they arise. And this is incredible. They do sophisticated stuff like tax loss harvesting that maximizes your return while minimizing your tax bill. And with their new portfolio review, you can see if your current portfolio is at risk, how diversified it is, what you're losing to fees, and how to minimize your taxes, all for free. That's a free service. And when you go there, you'll see how they would invest it instead. Did you know that more than 90% of long-term portfolios are not invested the right way? We have heard from so many people who have heard these ads and have invested at Wealthfront and are so happy. I want you to go to wealthfront.com/windows. Read up on it. You could start with as little as $500. That's the minimum investment. But here's a great little deal. The first $15,000 you invest, not for 1/4%, Wealthfront's normal fee, but for zero, forever. No fee ever. Just read a really good article about Wealthfront. Was it The Economist? I can't remember. Where they're talking about traditional investment advisors freaked out. They're freaked out by this because Wealthfront does better than they do for a heck of a lot less money. Just take a look. Do it for me. You can get that portfolio review. You can get a personalized portfolio, find out what they would invest in for you. If you go to wealthfront.com/windows, that's all free. Wealthfront.com/windows. I think you'll be very impressed by how their performance has been over the years now. They've got $2.6 billion in assets under management. The growth rate is phenomenal. Wealthfront.com/windows. Windows Weekly, Paul Thurrott, Mary Jo Foley. Let's kick things off with old PT. And his old PT. And his tip of the week.
Yeah, I've been threatening to build a computer for a long time, and I will actually build a computer this year. In fact, I'll probably build a couple of them, including a gaming computer.
You're going to do one like we're doing, right? Yeah.
Yeah, probably not as good as yours, but...
you're not spending $5,000.
No. In fact, the gaming computer's for my son, and he's paying for it, so it's probably going to be closer to $1,000. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. But I was in Seattle area last week for a Microsoft event and was staying with Raphael in Bellevue. And he had this Intel NUC computer that work had provided him with. And I was kind of checking it out. And I was aware of this thing and I looked it up, and they have Skylake versions. And I thought, this is this is an interesting thing. I think I'm gonna try this first, just as something really simple. This is a PC build so simple anyone could do this. You basically get the computer, which is a motherboard. It's a 4x4-inch motherboard inside of a box. USB, video out, full-size SD expansion, etc. It's not fanless because you can get full speed Core i5, Core i7, Core i3 processors, but it's super quiet. Doesn't generate a lot of heat, and they're not expensive. And so I bought the i5 version. It supports 2 internal drives. If you need that kind of thing, I'm only going to use one. But with RAM, 16 gigs of RAM and 250 gigs of M.2 SSD storage, the whole thing was about $500.
Wow.
And this is an awesome computer. And I'm using it now. I'm using it for the podcast. This week I also bought a 32-inch HP display, which is 2560. It's not a 4K. It's like a 2560 by 1440 display. and it's just sitting here silently driving this, no problem at all. This is absolutely as good as the humongous tower computer I was using for years and years. And it's kind of made me step back a little bit and think I'm still going to do the PC build just because I know people are waiting on it. But the truth is, this is all the computer I need.
Yeah,
and that's amazing.
I agree.
It's a beautiful, beautiful little device. I love this thing.
These NUCs are incredible.
Yeah. So look it up. I mean, Intel NUC, NUC, I think it stands for Next Unit Computing. I don't know why they do this, honestly.
I always want to say yuck, 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 yuck when I hear it, but
yeah, like the Three Stooges.
Terrible.
Yeah, no, I do the same. In fact, I had to wait.
Factor's awesome though.
Yeah, it's I can't pick it up because it's it's the computer, but it's 4 inches by, well, outside the box itself is maybe 4.5 or 5 inches by 5 inches.
Are they all made by Intel, or are these third-party manufacturers?
These are Intel. Yeah, I don't know if there are other people or other companies make.
It's like a form
as well,
factor,
this kind of
right?
Yeah,
Intel
a small form factor computer. Yeah, and it's all it's all Intel stuff, and so you get like an Intel driver utility, gets all the drivers you need and all that stuff.
Did you get it from Newegg? Where'd you get it?
I bought it from Amazon.
Oh,
yeah. I love this.
If you have a keyboard, mouse, and monitor, and who doesn't?
Yeah, exactly. It really is the Mac Mini proposition from whenever they introduced that 5-10 years ago. Except it's a PC. The only goofiness actually is Windows, right? So if you buy a low-end version of this computer with I think a Celeron or a Pentium, they even have, I think they have Atom versions too. You actually get Windows for free, right, on these really low-end computers. If you buy a Core i5 like I bought, you have to put Windows on there. And I didn't do this. I actually, I have some Windows 7 keys I can still use, and of course you can use those to activate Windows 10, so that worked fine. I used a Windows 7 key, but you could just throw the Windows Insider preview on here and just, keep it on whatever ring you want to keep it on and not pay for Windows if you wanted to do that as well. I have a feeling that would work semi-permanently. I don't think there's going to be
do the new Microsoft Linux build, right? I mean,
yeah. Anyway, so I'm sure. By the way, I'm sure Mint Linux or Ubuntu. I'm sure those would work fine too. Yeah. But it's so cool. It's so cool. I say this with the understanding that I so rarely get to be so positive about anything technology related. It's amazing how well this thing works. I have no complaints. Like, it's wonderful. I love this thing. I love how easily it goes to sleep and how quickly it comes back to life. It just works.
It's an appliance computer. It really is.
It installed Windows in under 7 minutes.
Wow.
It's astonishing.
And did you get one with an SSD, or did you? Yeah, you did.
Yeah,
you said M2. Yeah.
Yeah, M.2. So I never had bought one before, but it looks like a stick of gum.
Yep.
And I didn't buy a particularly fast one. I bought it's an eSATA type. It's nothing special, and I'm telling you, it's so awesome. It's so much better than the thing I was using before. Yeah. It's really neat.
Wow.
Yeah, there's the basic little kit.
Yeah, this is an i7.
That kind of
120 gig M.2.
Yeah. Well, actually, so I got 16 gigs of RAM.
Yes,
I got an i5.
They come with too little RAM. Yeah.
Yeah, 16 gigs of RAM. You can go up to 32 gigs in this thing. Wow. Right. You could have 2 SSD drives. One would be the stick, and one would be a normal, whatever the 2.5-inch form factor is, like a laptop type drive. I'm only going to put the one drive in it. It's just awesome. I love this thing. Yeah.
And you're using the Intel graphics that?
Yep, it's like Iris graphics, which is just nothing special.
Fine. But that's fine.
It's fine. Yeah. Yep.
I agree. We've used a lot of NUCs here and there. It's great.
Yeah. It's neat. I'm blown away by this thing. The software pick this week is something that people are going to be like, "Duh, Paul, I've only known about this for the past year." I don't know why I waited so long in this, but I finally looked into and installed and am using Pocket.
Oh yeah,
Pocket is awesome.
Yeah,
it is awesome. It works everywhere.
I used Instapaper for so long, and I was so glad I moved to Pocket.
And it solves a problem for me because when it comes to reading on devices, sometimes you're out in the world, you just have your phone. And a lot of the Kindle type reading, I read newspapers on an iPad. I read Kindle magazines and books on an iPad. But oftentimes I'm like out in the world and I have a phone and I want something short to read. And I guess I could download whatever book I might be reading at the time. But, it's like, this is a wonderful way to save articles for offline for later. They sync immediately to all of your devices. I've done this on Windows Phone, on Android, and on iPhone and on iPad, I should say, as well. It's on the web, of course. There's plugins for all the browsers. I use it in Chrome, but Firefox,
yeah,
whatever.
It's really easy to add stuff to Pocket. You just click.
Yeah, and you can go to the web like you're doing right now, and you can just look at whatever you have saved. You could read it there. It's sort of a beautiful reading view style thing without ads and all that. Although I guess ads are coming to Pocket, as you might expect. This is a subscription service if you want to pay for it. Yeah. It's wonderful. It's just great. I sort of like the Nuck thing. Like seriously, why did I wait on this? It's awesome. It's awesome.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, sorry I waited so long.
Getpocket.com, but really you ought to just look on your mobile device and find the Pocket.
Yeah, really neat.
Pocket app. Pocketa.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should say if you have Windows Phone, what you're looking for is something called Pokey. Like P-E-O-K-I.
Are you joking?
No, for Pocket.
Pokey for Pocket?
It has its own little
there's
style.
no native app?
Yeah, probably. But the Pokey app is wonderful. Actually, on the Get Pocket site, they have all of the apps that work.
Okay. Okay.
And that was the one that looked like it was the highest rated. I tried that. I think I paid for it. I think you buy it. It was a couple of bucks or whatever. It's a great app. It's fine.
Mary Jo Foley kicks off our Enterprise Pick of the Week.
Yes, and this one is not anything to do with porting to Linux. Paul will be happy.
God.
This is about Dynamics AX, which is one of the 4 ERP products that Microsoft has. And Microsoft announced yesterday that this is now generally available, the latest version. So there are a couple of things that are interesting about the latest version. For one, it doesn't have a date after the name. It used to be like Dynamics AX 2015 or 2013, but now it's just plain old Dynamics AX. And the reason is it's a service, just like Windows, right? So right now, this is available hosted on Azure. Well, actually, I can't even use the word hosted. It was built for Azure. It was architected in a way that it has to run on Azure. And it incorporates a lot of other Microsoft products as part of it. When you buy Dynamics AX, you get Power BI, you get Azure Disaster Recovery, you get Dynamics CRM Online, you get this whole bundle of stuff. The other interesting thing is when Microsoft makes this available on premises later this year, it's not going to run on Windows Server. It's also not going to run on Linux. It's going to run on Azure Stack. So this is the first example, I think, of any Microsoft Server product that doesn't run on Windows Server at all. It only runs on Azure Stack, which is Microsoft's hybrid cloud operating environment. I think this is the way we're going to see more things coming out from them in the future. So you know how we always talk about cloud first? This is pretty much cloud only. It's even the on-premises version is a cloud version of the product. So right now, this is available in 137 markets, 40 languages. This is Microsoft's kind of flagship ERP product. They have 3 other ones, but this is their big one. And this is the first one that they built this way. So very interesting trends about how they're doing their enterprise server products.
Cool. And our code name of the week.
Codename of the week is Project Rigel. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
I always say Rigel, but
Rigel.
maybe that's because I'm influenced by Star Trek.
Star Trek, yeah, which is where it has to be from, right?
Right, you're right. Its brightest star in the constellation Orion is Rigel, which has absolutely nothing to do with what this is.
Star Trek might be more to the point. I don't know.
Yeah, this is something to do with Skype for Business. So, you know when Microsoft talked about having a custom version of Skype meeting for the Surface Hub, which, by the way, still hasn't shipped, those Surface Hubs, those giant big screen surfaces.
Any day now.
No, not out yet.
Not for a long time.
But they're taking that Skype meeting experience and they're going to make it available to people who don't have Surface Hubs, so that if you go into a conference room, you use kind of a smaller Windows 10 device or like a Polycom system. Mm-hmm. They're creating this, they call it an initiative, where their partners are going to be able to all give you that similar Skype meeting experience, even if you don't have the Surface Hub in your conference room. So that's what Rigel is. It's like an initiative more than it is a product. But it definitely tells you where they're going with Skype for Business around the whole concept of meetings. So what does that have to do with the largest star in the constellation of Orion? I don't know. Nothing probably, but that's the code name.
Orion's the only constellation everybody can identify. Well, the Big Dipper, the Little Dipper, and Orion. And maybe that's it. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Orion's the Irish constellation, I believe.
Oh yeah, like O'Reilly,
Yeah,
Orion. Yeah.
Orion. That's good.
Orion. Orion.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Orion. And now it's time for beer.
It is.
It sure is.
So my beer pick is more about the brewery this week than the beer itself. When we were out in Redmond last week, I got to go to this new brewery I'd never been to called Hi-Fi Brewing, which is very close to the Microsoft campus in Redmond.
They know
And
their
it's
customer base.
They do. Very cute, small brewery with a whole music theme going on. It looks like you're in someone's living room. There's like record players.
Hi-fi like
over there.
stereo.
Yeah, like
I
stereo.
get it.
Yeah. And a lot of their beers have musically themed names, including the IPA that I had there, which is Sitar IPA, which was a very good one. I actually had a cask version of this that had grapefruit peel in it. So it was even more bitter, which was great.
Yum.
But yeah, this place is really, really cute. So if you're in Redmond after a long day of Microsoft meetings about Linux, you might want to go look for Hi-Fi Brewing.
Yep.
Yeah, you might need it.
You might want to stop by on the way there. Just have it at hand.
Long day of Linux meetings. Oh, my. HiFiBrewing.com, H-I-F-I. Cool. That sounds really good. Really good. I want the grapefruit peel in it.
Yeah, it was nice. Very nice.
I did end up at the Bellevue Brewery place that we
That's
had
a good
gone
one,
last
too.
year, right, for our meetup.
Yep.
Did you do a lot of
Oh, is it-
drinking when you were out there?
I did.
I checked in at a lot of new breweries when I was up there.
That's not new. There've always been a lot of craft beers up there, or is that something that's
I think the stuff we're talking that she just mentioned, and I think those are newer.
Yeah.
Right. These are smaller places.
Yeah.
You know, Red Hook, right, is from this area.
Red Hook's
Or
been
that
Red Hook's
area.
been there for a
Yeah.
long time.
No, I know,
yeah.
but I mean, like
Fat
there's stuff
Tire.
like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And yeah,
Yep.
but I think these things are newer.
Yeah.
They are, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were like, since the last time we were out there, I think there were like 5 or 6 new breweries that had been just started up since we had been there.
Wow.
That I went to. So
Yeah.
Beer's all the rage.
it is.
All the kids are doing it.
All the kids are doing it. Of over 21, of course.
Yeah, of course. Well,
Of course.
have you seen a 21-year-old? They're kids.
Yeah, they really are. I have one.
Yikes. Sorry.
Oh. Well, my friends, we've come to the end of another wonderful Windows Weekly. It has to happen sometime. But we'll be back next week to do the same thing all over again. Mary Jo Foley, allaboutmicrosoft.com. You can read her all week long. She files like 18 times a day. Hardest
feels like
working-
that sometimes.
Hardest working woman in tech journalism. Paul Thurrott, not so hard working. But
I kind of mail it out.
no, I'm
Thanks,
kidding.
Leo.
I'm just kidding. Thurrott.com. That's the website. THURROTT.com. And both of them are active on Twitter. You can follow them there. And follow them here every Wednesday, around about 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1900 UTC. Next week, the clocks are changing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, this is always a cause for confusion because the United States changes it apparently on its own whim. I don't know who's changing, who's not. UTC, of course, is an immovable object, but we are moving. So, next week will still be 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, but it'll be 1800 UTC because
I think you've just explained it, and no one will be confused by it ever again.
that makes perfect sense.
Yep. I understood everything you said, and I think it's fine. What could go wrong?
Dear. Oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear. Anyway, you don't have to watch live. In fact, most people don't. They get it
You
on
probably
demand.
won't if you can't handle that.
If you're
kind of
confused by
method.
that, don't watch live. 1800, whatever. But you can always get it at twit.tv/WW or wherever your finer podcasts are aggregated for later download and delivery to your mobile. And, of course, Twit apps everywhere. Stitcher, everywhere. just get the app. Listen every week to Windows Weekly. Build is coming up, as you mentioned, Mary Jo Foley, and we're going to do a special edition of Windows Weekly April Fool's Day, appropriately enough, from Build. And you'll be invited. You'll be able to come. I don't know how we're going to arrange that. Find the secret room, and you can come in.
Well, we'll probably have more details than that.
Maybe.
Hopefully.
As we get closer.
As we get closer.
Yeah.
But just something to keep. If you're coming out for a Build, remember that Friday afternoon after Build, we're going to do a special show, 1 p.m. Pacific. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time on Windows Weekly.